Hello! So today's episode is going to be about cameras. If you're not really into the cameras, then you can just skip ahead to some footage of me in Chicago going to work, which also may not be that exciting. But if you are interested in the kind of cameras that we use, I'm going to be talking about the four main cameras that Petra and I film with. That's the Sony A7R Mark II, the Sony A6500, the Sony RX100, and of course, our phones. There's a reason that we have four cameras, other than the fact that I like cameras, and that's because each of them does something better than the other ones do. I'm going to try to do a brief overview of the four cameras and the pros and cons of those cameras, and which camera does better than the other cameras in certain situations. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people out there that will disagree with the things that I have to say, but this is just my own opinion of things. It's not a scientific study or anything like that. For me, the most important thing is travel, portability, small and compact versus image quality. So I'm always trying to get the best image quality I can get in the smallest package possible. Kind of like myself. Wait, no, that's not what I meant. Anyways, so the first camera is the A7R Mark II. And these are some of the reasons why I shoot with this camera and in what situations I use this camera. Because it's a 42 megapixel camera, I can zoom in and crop in post the photographs and the videos that I shoot with. And also because of that, I can put on some of my small prime lenses and I can get a really nice cinematic look. The other thing that's really great about this camera is that it's a full frame camera. So that means that all my ultra wide lenses look like ultra wide lens shots. It's also really great in low light, and it's the main camera I use when we're walking around and I think I want to shoot photos and video. Now, that being said, the cons of this camera are as follows. It doesn't have any autofocus because I use manual lenses, and the reason that I use manual lenses is because they're smaller and more compact. The other problem with this camera is that it's pretty big and heavy compared to all the other cameras. It's also not very inconspicuous. It's pretty noticeable when I'm walking around with this camera, people can see it, and sometimes it's a little intimidating. So the next camera on the list is the A6500. That's the newest camera that I just got recently, and it's the camera that I'm filming with now. This camera has a lot going for it and just a few minor problems. So here's some of the pros and cons of it. The pros are that it's portable. It's small, I can carry it around. It has a microphone jack, so I can have good sound. It also allows me to have swappable lenses. It's actually really great in low light. And it also has fantastic autofocus, so vlogging with it is really great. Now, that being said, here are some of the cons of the camera. It has a very limited lens selection when it comes to small, compact, fast lenses, which is what I can get with my manual lenses, but I can't get in the autofocus lenses. It also doesn't have a flip-up screen for vlogging, so I have to kind of guesstimate where I am and what the shot is gonna look like. It's also a little too big for my pocket. You can put it like in maybe a big, deep jacket pocket, but it's not the kind that you can just slip in your pocket and take with you. It's also not very stealthy. People still kind of notice when you're walking around with this camera. And lastly, it has a cropped sensor, so you don't get as wide of an angle from those same lenses that you would get off of the A7R Mark II. The last Sony camera that I use is the Sony RX100 Mark V. This is a fantastic point and shoot camera, and it is expensive, but really what you're paying for is a DSLR that you can fit in your pocket. You're not really paying for a point and shoot camera that kind of does DSLR stuff. So the pros of the RX100 is that it's very portable. It's really super stealthy, it's got great slow motion, and it has incredible autofocus. It also has a flip-up screen, which is great for vlogging or filming yourself, or even taking photographs of you and some friends. Now, the cons of this camera are few, but they are important. It's really slow to start up. I've pretty much missed almost every single spontaneous shot that I wanted to take with it because it wasn't fully on before the thing I was trying to shoot was over. It also has a fixed lens, so I can't swap out any lenses. I'm kind of stuck with what's on it. And I would say probably the biggest issue with that point and shoot camera that brings it down as a vlogging camera is that there's no microphone jack. If there was a microphone jack on this camera, it would be pretty much your go-to for most everything. However, there are situations where it's not that great, and that would be in low light compared to the other cameras. It's still a great low light point and shoot camera, but it's not nearly as good as the other two cameras. Also, it's very delicate. It's small, and it's got little teeny parts that can easily break. It's pretty amazing that ours is still around considering how many times we've dropped it. And the very last camera is just our phones. These days our phones are actually even better than the old point and shoot cameras that we used to have. So it's not really that much of a downgrade to be shooting with your phone. The pros of shooting videos and vlogs with your phone is that it's ultra portable. It's always with you. It's automatic everything, and it's super stealthy. You can whip it out and start filming people and they have no idea what's going on until it's too late. And the cons and downside of shooting with your phone is that it looks like a smartphone. It's also terrible in low light compared to the other cameras, and the audio is subpar and sounds like you shot it with your phone. So in a nutshell, this is how I use my cameras. My A7R, the nicest camera, is what I use for my cinematic shots, but those are usually silent. The next camera is the A6500, which is my new vlogging camera that I talk to, in this case, like right now. The RX100 is kind of my pocket portable vlogging camera that I can sneak around and shoot stuff with and still get pretty good image quality. And the iPhone is to kind of get footage in a sneaky way. So if you're at Target or you're at a grocery store, you can sometimes get some footage before someone spots you and then chases you out of the store. There's also two other cameras I'd like to mention real briefly, and that is the GoPro and my Mavic drone. The GoPro I use when I want to go underwater, and the drone I use for a sense of perspective and sometimes as a transition element. To illustrate how I use these cameras on a typical vlogging episode, I shot this footage from my recent work trip to Chicago. I labeled each shot with the camera I used and the reason that I picked that camera for that shot. So check it out.
Ain't shady, baby, I'm hot like the prodigal son. Big up Bartolini, meeny, money, mo, and flower, you're the chosen one. Well, your left hand's free, and your right hand grip, with another left hand watches right and left. Schwartz is gone.
You ever seen a grown man naked?
Grip on his coat, single action on me. Well, your left hand's free, and your right hand grip, with another left hand watches right and left. Schwartz is gone. N-E-O-O-M-G-G, Wiz girl, you're the one for me. Though your man's bigger than I am, all my days he disagrees.
Speak easy.
Ain't shady, baby, I'm hot.
So I just got in my hotel room, I ordered some food, it's probably gonna show up downstairs in the lobby. Pick that up and then maybe talk to Petra on Skype real quick before I get ready for tomorrow's day. Another day in the city.
Well, your left hand's free. Well, my 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 left hand's free.
Off to work.
You're gonna bleed money for 2 years, and if you can do that, we'll fix you.
Well,
Who's gonna make that argument?
especially because if you're honest, you can't even guarantee it fixes it. So people who succeed are people like once in a while, like Drew.
If he's videotaping me,
People
I'm
succeed,
gonna
they're
be.
like, I'm with
Big up Bartolini, meeny, money, mo, and flower, you're the chosen one.